The Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion Remastered on Steam Deck. So this game is verified. I played this on the Game Pass version. It's also available on Game Pass, but on SteamOS we cannot actually play Game Pass stuff. So I got it on Steam. It's verified, which is good to see, but it's an Unreal Engine 5 game, so we'll see what happens. I never opened this game on Steam Deck, so let's see the default settings and what to do. Alright, so as soon as I launched the game, there was a shader compilation thing that was like less than 2 minutes. By default, the text is large, which correct for Steam Deck. And by default, the settings are 800p with, well, the FOV at 75, screen space reflections, and the low preset. There's also lowest, which I don't remember seeing on the PC version. I mean, this is still the PC version, but when I played this on PC, the lowest option wasn't there, as far as I remember. Okay, Lumen Hardware RT off, Lumen Software RT quality on low. I highly recommend you put all the ray tracing stuff on the lowest. Then by default we have XeSS performance. I was expecting them to put TSR or FSR. Usually XeSS is not here by default. And on performance is basically half the resolution, so 400p. Let's see how this goes without touching any other setting. With a frame limit of 30, again, by default, it is like this. Okay, so we jump right in at the very beginning of the game. I'm noticing that the frame pacing isn't fantastic. It's locked at 30 using the in-game FPS lock. And the resolution is pretty low, but all things considered, considering this is 400p, materials actually look pretty damn good. Also, do we have shadows? Yeah, we do have shadows from torches and from the outside. Pretty low res, but again, we're playing on a Steam Deck. Let's skip ahead because this usually is not a good representation. Indoors tends to be less demanding than outside, and by a long shot, so let's get outside and see what happens. Alright, so after roughly 10 to 15 minutes, we're in the open world, and this is when the game takes a dive when it comes to performance. It happened when I was streaming it on PC as well. Again, indoors, usually games are not super demanding, but outside is when they start suffering. First thing that I'm noticing is that we got screen space reflections, that's good to see, that we didn't have to turn those off. Since it's Unreal Engine 5, it's normal that we're getting results like these, honestly. And it's also locked to 30 FPS, but the frame pacing is all over the place. That's with the in-game FPS cap. So the first thing I'm doing right away, it's unlock the frame rate. So we apply that change. And now we have an unlocked frame rate. But since we're barely hitting 30 FPS anyway, we're going to lock it to 30 FPS from the Steam Deck's menu. Alright, and despite me locking it to 30 from the Steam Deck's menu, the frame pacing is still pretty bad. The GPU is maxed out, the CPU has some moments where it wants to explode, which happened to me on PC as well. Draw distance is pretty poor, especially for the grass, and there's some stuttering. There it goes, UE5. So yeah, I think the settings that I chose, which is low, makes sense, but still, I don't know. In comparison to other UE5 games, I would say this is verified, but I'm not 100% convinced. Alright, now in handheld, the changes that I made is 1152 by 720, so you can open this menu at the right, and you can increase the sharpness or decrease it at your will. Then everything is on low, like default, but I used FSR instead of XeSS. In this case, personally, I did it just so I can show you frame generation, because many of you guys asked for it. And going anything above performance upscaling really just hardlocks the game below 30 FPS for me, at least on the outside. So the frame pacing is better than before, even if I use the in-game FPS lock or whatever that I decided to do. The game just refuses to have a a consistent 33.3 milliseconds in the frame time. It just feels inconsistent. Also, of course, using the Steam Deck's built-in FPS cap gives you more input lag. So yeah. We're basically borderline 30s. Going above 30, yeah, not a chance. But already you can see just how much the frame rate suffers as soon as I get into basic combat with the default settings. And again, default settings is basically low settings with performance upscaling, that is half the resolution. But despite those heavy sacrifices, as you can see, the pop-in for the grass, the draw distance, it's to be expected in a UE5 game, especially when it comes to the Steam Deck. There's also traversal stutter that I didn't notice as much on PC, but here is very, very obvious. The city, as you can see, the frame times are better, still not perfect, nowhere close to perfect. They're better than outside because we're less GPU limited, so the graphics card is doing less work, there's not as much foliage or as much stuff being rendered. Just a few NPCs and some, well, the lighting from the sky and the city. And as soon as you go outside, touch some grass, all that, well, the frame times get worse. Because again, there is stuff into the distance, there is the rain, at the moment it's just raining. We have the sun, and there are torches outside of the city as well. So usually when it dropped for me the most was when I was outside of the city. Just in the open world, looking at trees and stuff. There's a lot of foliage in this game, which makes complete sense. It's one of the hallmarks of Unreal Engine, that draw distance. I'm not saying, oh yeah, it's horrible, blah blah blah. No, it's playable, it's okay. But verified, I think it's a bit of a stretch. I mean, yeah, it works, whatever, but the frame times are super spiky. The frame times have never been consistent, even with the in-game FPS cap. The frame rate can drop below 30 and there is traversal stutter. And at the same time, we're sacrificing the settings for the draw distance and all that. And the resolution is basically at 50% native, which on the smaller screen, okay, it's fine, whatever. You can still play the game, it looks good enough. You can still notice what's going on. Not like in other games, looking at you, Velguard and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. And look at that, those spikes in the frame times, those are absolutely horrible. And yeah, it's portable, that makes it impressive in my book to have Unreal Engine 5 on the go. But at the same time, just that inconsistency in the performance makes it not verified in my book. There is screen space reflections, which is good to see. That's excellent. I tried going lower than low with the lowest option, and honestly, I didn't think it was worth it. It looked basically the same, and it performs basically the same. So staying on low, I think it's fine. And yeah, it works, but I mean, just look at what can happen while just running around doing nothing. This is what bothers me about the verification system. Looking at this on how much it's been stuttering incessantly, despite me restarting the game multiple times, at least in the open world. Yeah, I have to call this a Steam Deck terrified. I mean, yeah, Steam Deck terrified means it's verified, but it shouldn't be. And there doesn't seem to be any way to make it better. The game stutters no matter what. So yeah, it's been nice to check it out, but I'm very disappointed. So we go all the way down. In this case, we need to use FSR 3 in order for frame generation to work. So we enable FrameGen. And there we go, FrameGen. The base frame rate is basically 30 FPS, sometimes drops into the upper 20s. And the FrameGen is built into the game. Well, the stutters that were there before are now even more noticeable. It says 50 something FPS, but the frame times are still bad, like without frame generation. And now you have more input lag, so great. We made it even worse. Anyway, while I'm showing you frame generation footage, yeah, it's basically performance upscaling at 800p, so 400p or below, lowest settings, which has very poor draw distance to be expected from a UE5 game. There's also artifacts using FrameGen, but that's besides the point. Would I recommend this on Steam Deck? No, definitely not, unless you're someone that just launches the game and doesn't know about graphics or frame rates and doesn't notice 30 FPS with drops into the 20s. My issue with this game is that it's very inconsistent. Technically it hits 30 FPS, yeah, whatever, yay, let's go all celebrate together. But at the same time, the frame times are so inconsistent that at the beginning of the game, even being indoors with low GPU usage, with the in-game FPS cap engaged, the camera movement is just super inconsistent. And the same happens when I use the Steam Deck's FPS cap. So yeah, on top of that, if you put FrameGen, you get more input lag. So there's no good way to play this on Steam Deck, at least in my opinion. The stutters are still there, that's an issue with UE5. I saw stutters on the PC while traversing, but not to the level that I'm seeing it right here on Steam Deck, so yeah. At least in my opinion, I consider this Steam Deck terrified. This actually inspired me to test every Elder Scrolls game on Steam Deck. I really only played Skyrim in my lifetime, so playing this just made me remember that there's more games in the franchise, so I'm going to be doing a video testing every single one of them. I'm going to buy all of them on Steam and show them off to you guys in a single video, including this game. Hopefully at that point this game has some patching done to it, but I don't think patches can fix this, because it seems to be the root issue is Unreal Engine 5. I mean, this has been commonplace of UE5 games on Steam Deck, so we'll see if the original is a better idea. Maybe we can make it work well with a gamepad, the gamepad controls with Steam input, but as of right now, at its current state, I wouldn't recommend it. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Steam Deck terrified, and I'll see ya next time. Bye guys.